Well, good morning, everyone. Namaste, Om Shanti, bendiciones, Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, any of those things. You know, Mary Lynn's got to be happy that Randy only sings backup vocals because he has been running around this morning and he is out of breath. And we appreciate him doing everything. I will tell you, though, coming in and not having the auditory system set up, the mic system, that doesn't bring me any anxiety or make me nervous. Driving up here with my beautiful children and having my 15-year-old drive so that I can read, I'm going to take a few more deep breaths. She did a fantastic job, by the way. Fantastic job, by the way. Speed up, sweetheart, speed up. Watch that car. Turn on your signal. So, as Reverend Bonnie said, this month we're talking about coming home in spirit, and my talk today is about home. So, where is home? Is it where the heart is? Is it where I live? Is it where I grew up? Is it where our most fond memories are, perhaps? Is it a place of comfort? Reverend Bonnie said, home is home a place, structure, feeling, and experience, or all of the above? I think home can be best described as a place where you become yourself. So I do think it kind of goes back to some of our earlier times where you start to develop those synapses in the brain. So what is home to me? It's a place where I can be who I am at my most basic self. And if you're one of my neighbors, you know that's me walking around in my backyard in my chonies. No, I'm just kidding. Well, actually, that's the truth. It's what gave me essence of who I am, how I am, and what I am. And so again, I take that all back towards the beginning. Last month, I mentioned when we were talking about joy, one of the things that brings me joy and also reminds me of home is the smell of rain in the desert, you know, after it rains. And then this last week, I smelled something that I hadn't thought of in a while because I usually only smell it in the fall, and it's only here. And if you're from here, or if you've ever been here, the smell of roasted green chilies. I mean, that says home to me more probably than anything. That's how I know where I am. And if I'm not there, it takes me back there immediately. So, you know, the longest place I'd ever lived growing up was down at La Union. From when I was 12 years old till I was 18 years old. I was there for 6 years. So those were my formative years. But I've lived in the house that the kids and I live in now, the only house they've ever known, for 19 years. You know, that's a long time. So I started to think, well, which one is home? And to me, I still go back to La Union. Hopefully the kids, you know, they'll think about where they live now. That's a long time to live in one place. And it reminded me of that song that Miranda Lambert sings called The House That Built Me. And one of the lyrics is she goes in and she knocks on the door. It's the house that she grew up in, and another family lives there now. And she said, you know, could I come in and take a look around? I promise I won't take nothing but a memory from the house that built me. So I think it can be a physical place. I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and I asked her, I said, you know, I'm going to be speaking tomorrow, and, you know, tell me, where is home? And she is a very enlightened being. And she said, well, immediately it's right here. It's within me. I carry it with me wherever I go. And we talked a little bit more, and I had some more probing questions. And I said, well, does it ever smell like anything? Oh, well, of course. It smells like my grandmother's home and making apple pie. And so everybody has something a little bit different tied in with what home means, especially if it brings you comfort. And I think that's very important. Southern New Mexico, West Texas. This is my home. This is my physical home, my formative years. This is where I grew up. And I was gone for 18 years after high school. And when I moved home, Christmas of '98, and I started a new job working for Univision, I could not believe what I saw driving from my home up Mesa Street. I didn't recognize the undulations, literally the arroyos, the different things. Where was that when I was a kid growing up? Was I just not paying attention? I mean, how beautiful everything was. It's like seeing things for the first time. And I just thought of how unusual that was. Reverend Bonnie asked, where is your essence housed? In one sense, we take our home with us wherever we go. And I love the quote Reverend Bonnie gave us. It says, home is not where I live, but what lives inside of me. And then another friend of mine, thank you, Brandy, for this quote, home has less to do with a piece of soil than with a piece of soul. And at some point in your physical transition, or what some people call death, I believe that we don't leave our home. I believe that we go home. You know, if your foundational years or things like that, if that's part of home, then I believe once we make our transition, I think we kind of go back into the collective consciousness of all the things that are good, and that's another aspect of going home. And so when you think about home, you think about maybe a physical place of where are you. But for a moment here, I'd like to think about who are you? Who am I? And it takes me back to Grandmaster Chow Kuk Sui's quote, his prayer actually that I'd like to share with you, called I am the soul. And it says, I am not the body, I am not the emotion, I am not the thought, I am not the mind, I am the soul. I am a spiritual being of divine intelligence, divine love, divine power. I am one with my higher soul. I am that I am. I am one with the divine spark within me. I am a child of God. I am connected with God. I am one with God. I am one with all, and so it is. I like that one a lot. So if my spirit, if my soul is housed within my body, I suppose that can be my home. And the question is, Reverend Bonnie brought up a while back, our plan A or plan B, am I taking good care of my home? And see, I always thought the word soul and spirit were kind of the same thing, or at least I use those words interchangeably. But then I came across a quote by Thomas More a couple of months back, and it says, the soul needs a sense of home and likes to attach itself to things, to people, to pets. Whereas the spirit stays detached from the physical. The spirit is what inclines us to want to learn more and to be more. So I had to stream this the other day through my thought process. So I'm going to read it to make sure I get it right, even though I don't know that there's a right or a wrong. It says, so if God is love, and we associate love with the heart, then God must be in our heart. And if God is in our heart, then our true home must be in our heart. And if our home is where our heart is and God resides in our heart, then our home, our love, our God are all within us. So if that's the case, Reverend Pat, tell me, why was I raised to think and pray to a being that is separate from me instead of within me? And that seems to be, even at the ripe old age of 35. Plus, thank you, Randy. That's probably one of my biggest things. Where do you go when you pray? Where does your mind go? Because I have to really, really work on it to do this versus that. Why was it some old guy in a long white robe and a long white beard on a big white cloud? And why is it separate from me? Now, I don't think this was intentional, but I honestly believe that this is probably the biggest lie that I've been led to believe, and it's that false belief that we're separate from our source, that we're separate from our Creator. That's the biggest hang-up I've had. And because I was raised in a Western Judeo-Christian environment, I get to blame my home religion, which is Christianity, for all the good and probably some of the not so good. But I see things differently now, and so I go within. Reverend Bonnie talked about us leaving home and going off on a big adventure. And I believe that the furthest distance that we'll ever travel when we go off on this big adventure is from our head to our heart. And you all have heard me talk about this a number of times, referencing the bicycle wheel metaphor, if you will. So here's this bicycle wheel, and it's spinning around. And if we're looking outside, if we're looking external for the answers, if we look to drugs, if we look to food, if we look to anything that's outside of us, we're going to be hanging on to the outside of that wheel, feeling all that centrifugal force. And it's hard to hang on there. But if we would just stop, it says, be still and know that I am God. If we just travel down one of those spokes, pick a spoke, folks. It all heads to the same place. Just pick one. Taoism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, it doesn't matter. Pick a spoke. They all go to the same hub. At the very center of the hub, even though the wheel's still spinning, there's no movement. And I think that's where we need to go to find our answers. The key is, where are we looking? The Apostle Paul spoke of it when he said, because we look not to things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, all this stuff that we can see, it's transient, it's not going to last. But the things that are unseen are eternal. It kind of reminds me of be in this world, but not of it. So last week, Reverend Pat said, the sweetest thing you can ever do is to come home to the realization that you are the home that you've been looking for. That is one of the greatest things that I've ever heard. Thank you very much. Tip your waiters and waitresses. Have a good weekend. Now, I mean, that's all there is to it. That is so profound. I mean, that just sums it all up for me. She also said, with your own mind, we have complete access to the collective creative energy of the universe, and that our true home is the spirit within ourselves. I do believe that this aspect of home we carry with us all the time. So home is what is familiar, and when we leave home at some point, I think we all kind of do, we go off on that adventure, which Baylor will be doing in a couple of months. He'll be headed off to college. And I've been asking myself, I heard a song the other day, and I broke down and I cried on the freeway. I hope anybody wasn't in any of the lanes near me because I was a blubbering mess. And his mom keeps talking about it, and I'm like, he'll be going off to college, no big deal. It all hit me at once. And I was just, have I taught him everything he needs to know? Have I taught him how to do things? Have I shared with him everything that he needs to be successful? And the answer is there's no way. There's absolutely no way. I haven't given him all the answers, but I have taught him how to think. I have taught him how to ask a better question. And I think that's important. I don't think it's important to have all the answers. I think it's important to learn how to ask a better question. The kicker is experience is the only thing that teaches us how to ask a better question. So as Baylor prepares to leave his physical home and go off on his great adventure, I thought I'd share with him and the rest of you that I love as well what I think is important to live a joy-filled life, to manifest your heart's desire. One of the things that I've been reminding both of the kids of lately is to tap in, tune in, and turn on to Christ consciousness, to the universal mind, because they've been taking a lot of final exams. And I said, the answers are always there, and they've been doing a great job at it. Brenna took an AP exam last week, and she said, Dad, I think I did really well, but there was this one question I knew that I didn't know. I said, well, what'd you do? She said, I relaxed, I took a deep breath, and she said, I asked my guides. And there was a few options there. She picked it. She went to the professor afterwards, and she said, I didn't know the answer to this. Which one is it? And it was the exact right answer. So you continue to exercise that muscle because you have special gifts. You are tapped in, and those answers will always be there for you, always within us. So my advice, and you've heard me say this a number of times, I start with gratitude. Have an attitude of gratitude. Always be grateful. I think it says in the Bible not to be grateful for all things, but be grateful in all things. Having that attitude of gratitude is so important. And a few weeks ago when I was talking about joy, if you're in a situation that is not so much fun, find anything to appreciate. If you can find something to appreciate, it'll lead to gratitude, which will lead to joy. After gratitude, forgiveness. You got to forgive yourself, and you got to forgive others, and be quick about it. If you want to manifest anything, you have to forgive. I notice when I'm not forgiving, things get stuck. You got to forgive. Don't forget, or you'll miss the lesson, but always forgive. Now, the key word here is ensure. If you want to ensure that you will have joy, love, peace, and prosperity in your life, my map of the world, there's 3 ways to do it. You can either work hard, you can work smart, or you can align your energy. And folks, I have really, really, really come into the last aspect of this, of aligning my energy. Because we've all seen a lot of people that work really hard, and they don't have the joy, love, peace, and prosperity, the abundance in their life that they really want. We've seen other folks that work smarter, and these things still continue to elude them in some way. But if we'll just stop and line up the energy first, then the action is inconsequential. I'm not saying you don't have to do other things. You do have to put feet to your prayers. But if we just line up the energy first, it makes things so much easier. So that's a gift that I would absolutely give you, is line up your energy first. And then you know how to do things after that. What I think and what I feel are always a match. So if I'm not getting what I want, I need to change something. And in Proverbs it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So you must think with your heart. That puts your energy creating capacity on steroids. You have to get a good feeling first. Find something that feels good, then think about what you want. That's how we manifest. Inspiration comes from within. Motivation is an external motivator. It's kind of like what Reverend Randy talked about last month. Happiness is outside. It kind of tastes good. It looks good or whatever. It's transient. Joy comes from within. Inspiration, in spiritu, the spirit within you. That's more permanent. That's what comes from within. So be inspired. Find something that inspires you, that brings you joy. And you'll never work a day in your life. You will be of service the entire time. When I think about lining up my energy, I pray. And all that sounds like, Bae, is thank you, God. Thank you, God. If you need something a little bit more, it's thank you, God, for revealing what needs to be revealed. Thank you for healing what needs to be healed. Thank you for leading me where you need me and guiding me in ways that I totally understand. You remember those two? That pretty much covers it by my map. So, a few additional quotes. I get all kinds of emails and stuff that come in. If I see something I like, I cut and paste it. I've probably got a couple hundred pages of things that I've cut and pasted over the last few years that I save. Meditate every day and get quiet, because stillness is the language that God speaks. Everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Where are you going to put your energy? In your fear or in your faith? The energy of the solution is not the energy of the problem. You can talk about the problem all you want, and that's exactly where you'll stay. If you want something different, focus on the energy of the solution. Talk about the solution. You can either use your words and your energy to describe the situation or to change the situation. So be a thermostat, not a thermometer. There's a huge difference. Change your environment. Don't let your environment change you. Remember the waves, that the sea beneath the waves are calm. Go home, go within. Here's a big one that I don't ask everybody to agree with me on, but since you're my son and I get to imprint upon you my craziness, my thought process. Hell is not down there. Heaven is not up there. It's not afterwards. It's right here. It's right now, bouncing between your ears. What are you going to give your energy to? Where are you going to live? Because it's real. Heaven and hell, it's real. But it's right here and it's right now. And it's in your thought process. Disappointments may be inevitable, but misery is optional. You get to decide. Your choices of action may be limited, but your choices of thought are not. You get to create. The mind doesn't know whether you're remembering, experiencing, or imagining. Use this beautiful thing to create the life of your dreams. God is not something to reach for. It's a presence to accept. Attitude is more important than talent. Never try to push a rope. And you must have the heart and the mentality of a servant to be truly successful. Are your emotions controlled by your circumstances or by your character? The small pot boils water the fastest. Be a bigger vessel. Here's one that I have to think about every once in a while. Never argue with an idiot, because before too long, people can't tell the difference. Adversity prepares greatness. And here's one that's really important. People may not remember what you said or what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. So one of my greatest life lessons is when faced with the opportunity to be correct, to be right, or to be loving and kind, always choose to be loving and kind. Always, always, always choose to be loving and kind, because it's a discipline of thought. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. The standards of success in life isn't the things that you have. It's the amount of joy that you have in your life. Joy is what we're here for, to experience, not de vez en cuando, all the time. Joy is why we're here. My every thought is attracting its vibrational essence. So again, you've heard me say this before. If we're thinking about what we want or what we don't want, that's what we're telling the universe we want more of. So we don't want to fight anything. We want to be for something, not against anything. And I was listening to the news this morning a little bit because I try not to pollute the thought process too much before I come up here. But it's just about fighting this and fighting that. And we all know that you don't do that. What you resist will persist. So we have to watch what we give our energy to. And one of the things that I want to share with you is a phenomenal lesson that Baylor got in this area just a couple of months ago. Back in February, it was 2 days before the regional swim championships, and we were going to go to Lubbock. And Baylor got up one morning early. He put on his glasses and was walking down the hallway, and he passed out, and he fell, and he cut his head wide open. And I got a call from Brenna. I was up swimming that morning. She said, just meet us at the ER. And I said, okay, and I got up there. Long story short, we didn't realize that he'd had the flu, and he was dehydrated. When you have 4% body fat, like me, apparently when you get dehydrated, it affects you quicker. So that's why it doesn't affect me, because I have slightly more than 4%. Anyway, he fell and he had to put stitches up here and up here. And at that point, his swimming career was over. And he's a talented swimmer. Last year he went to state. This year he would have gone to state again. So it was a shock to the system. So his mom was driving him home from the ER, and she asked him how he thought this event came to pass. Because, see, in our home, which also includes his mother's home, we actually believe this stuff that we talk about in here. Now, I'm not saying we've mastered any of it, but we believe that we're the co-creators with the universe, that whatever happens in our experience, that we kind of had something to do with it in some way, shape, or form. Not at fault, but somewhat responsible sometimes, not all the time, but we believe there's a cause and effect there. Baylor told his mom that although, they swim at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they do this from September through February. And you've ever had a teenager that loved getting up early in the morning? I haven't met one yet. And so they kind of have that talk and stuff like that. But then he said, but Mom, I really thought being excited about going to regionals. I thought being excited about going to state. I thought that was offsetting some of the other vibration, if you will. And so I got to see him later that evening. And I also asked him, how do you think this came to pass? And he gave me the same answers. And I asked him if I could give him some additional feedback, which he agreed. And I'd been reminding him about how he'd been complaining about some of his friends, that they hadn't been working out as hard. They had been disrespectful to their coach. I mean, he just wants everybody to be at the same level he is. He is so intense, and nobody knows where he gets it. And I just, I look at him and I'm like, sweet boy, just relax. And I guided him in a way where I told him he had energetically separated himself from his own team. And the light bulb came on. He had this epiphany. And now he understands that by controlling his thought process, Holmes talks about not one side or the other. You've got to be singularly focused on what you want. Only think about what you want to create more of. And so he saw that. I did not get that lesson until I was in my 40s. And so he really sees the difference. And I'm cutting the story way short, but it was so important. It's something that was real to him. And because he wanted to go back to state. He wanted to support his team. So how do you manifest? See it how you want it to be. Hear it, feel it how you want it to be. Think, imagine, envision, ruminate on how you want things to be. And the universe only has one option, to give it right back to you just the way that you asked for it. So 2 days later, we're driving to Lubbock, his mom and I, and Baylor's asleep in the back of the truck. Brenda's already there. She had a phenomenal meet and did extremely well. And we heard his phone ring, and he woke up, and all we hear is, oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, certainly. Look forward to it. Then he got off the phone. I'm like, Baylor, what was all that about? And he said, I just got the call from the University of Texas. I have been accepted into the Business Honors Program at the Macomb School of Business. And I, whew. And yes. And we were crying, tears of joy, tears of thanksgiving. And I said, so how did you do it? And he said, I just knew I would get into the program. There was never a doubt in my mind. I had faith, and I've been excited about it. There was never any doubt. Not, well, maybe, or I need a backup plan. He was myopically focused on creating exactly what he wanted, and he was excited about it. He gave it that energy. So y'all will get to decide how we're going to react or respond to the life events. We can go externally, but please go within. That's where home is. I think the greatest piece of advice that I can give you, my love, is only think about what you want to create more of. It comes down to that simple. And there's even scripture to back it up. So let me finish with that. It says, finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, think about these things. And welcome home. Namaste.